Today we have a special guest, another episode of My Life, My Story. And I want to thank you for coming in and telling your story. It's an extraordinary one. We want to welcome Ms. Natakey Owens, a dynamic certified speaker, author, domestic violence activist, and supporter of women's rights. How you doing today?
Doing well. How you doing?
I'm doing good. We have this story is it's a sad story, but what you're doing with it is something extraordinary that you're doing with your foundation and everything. So we're gonna get into everything. Right now, I want to start off with you.
Okay.
Where are you from? Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Rocky Mount, North Carolina.
North Carolina. Okay.
Yes.
What was it like growing up for you? Was it like a difficult childhood, or was it just a regular childhood?
Somewhat difficult, I guess, for a child, I would think. My mother battled with addiction, and so we had some episodes where, you have food, you don't have food. And, she wouldn't be home some of the time, so she wasn't the nurturing mom, I guess you would say. So, that was that part of my life. But then my grandmother raised me after I lost my mom, so it became a little more normal. I had food, had somewhere to lay every day. That wasn't my worry.
Okay, wow. So, speaking of your mom, you have a foundation dedicated to your mom, correct?
I do.
Okay, could you tell us a little bit about that?
So I started in memory of my mother because she died from domestic violence at the age of 29. She was stabbed 3 times by her boyfriend. And during COVID, we were all probably like all over the place. And because I do hair, and I was like not sure what to do because I'm used to being on a routine, got something, every day you get up, you go to work, you go to church. So all of that had stopped. And it got me in a place where I started trying to figure out what exactly am I supposed to be doing. I felt like I was supposed to be doing more. And that came to mind of starting a foundation in her name. And so that would be to help other survivors victims who may be, needing some type of resource or assistance while they're trying to go through their healing process.
Wow, wow. How old were you at that time?
I was 10.
Wow.
Yeah.
10 years old going through that.
Yeah.
At that particular time, because I know you were 10 at the time, so and that memory at this age, when you say you was in COVID or whatever, and was that the one thing that made you want to help domestic violence victims, or did you see other people going through it, or that one thing with your mom made you?
That and the fact that I went through it myself. I went through it and I realized that there were some things that I was having a hard time with. One was relationships. I was having a hard time with relationships, and so I wanted to get to the root of what was causing me not to be able to have a good, healthy relationships. Why did I feel like I had to do or be a certain way to get a man's attention? So it got me to thinking about I needed to heal through all of that, which was my childhood trauma, things that I endured as a victim, and wanted to become a better person. So then I was like, hey, I'm going to start something where I can help other women as I heal myself.
Wow. Now, with your experience with domestic violence, was it more physical? Was it verbal?
It was verbal, it was physical, mental, emotional, financial, all of those. But keep in mind, we were both young. And so as I matured, I realized that, he too probably went through certain things that he thought was correct way to treat a woman or talk to a woman based off of what he may have seen. So now I can see it that way. But coming up at first, I did not see it that way. I just thought, it was mean and this is just the things he did. But as I realized we have childhood trauma that causes us to do things in our adult life because we haven't dealt with as a child. And so we went through that for maybe about 4 or 5 years, to the point that I almost went to jail. And just the fight and name calling back and forth and him misusing money, thinking he could spend how he want to spend and all of that. So it was times I had to make sure I had a savings account because I didn't know what he was going to do with the money, a separate account. So yeah, I went through quite like all, it seemed like.
I got you. And I'm glad you said that about trauma on both ends because a lot of people don't realize.
Yeah.
It's trauma on both ends.
On both sides. Absolutely.
What was the moment you realized that you were, you had to get out though?
Because I was coming home every day crying. Like, I didn't even want to go home. So, like, your home was not a home. It was like, oh boy, here I go. I gotta go here again. Now you're contemplating on whether you're gonna be arguing about something. Is he gonna come home drunk, or he gonna be mad about something outside and bring it to me? Like, so I felt myself like it was coming to an end. And to be honest, at the time that I was in it, I didn't even realize it was a domestic violence relationship. I just thought we argued. I thought that was normal. Okay, that was normal. So it took me to get out of it and start seeing. I actually saw a woman tell her story at church for the very first time, and when she told, and all the stuff that she said sounds so familiar to the point I'm like, I was actually in a domestic violence relationship myself. I was married to him, so I'm like, I didn't realize I was in it. She was married to her abuser, and they were very known in the community, so she kept quiet about it, or people wouldn't believe it because he had such a good name in the community, but people didn't know what he was doing back at home. So it was one of those things that was an eye-opener, like, wow, I actually was in this myself.
Now, you went through trauma with your mom at a young age. You were in a marriage where you went through abuse. Now we want to come up to a tragedy, and it was just last year, August 2024, involving your daughter.
Yes.
That's your only child?
My oldest child.
Your oldest one? So,
yeah.
That's your baby. That's your oldest one.
Oh, yeah.
Can you? I want you to tell a little bit about what happened that day, whatever you can speak on.
Yeah. So, so I can give the exact date, August the 11th at 5:02. I got a FaceTime call, and my daughter, for her to call me that late, I thought it was going to be something like she might have been upset about something or crying, because sometimes, how when you need your mom and you call them, they just call you any time of the day and want to talk. And so I thought with her calling me that time of the night, I'm like, first thing in my mind, like, what does she want this time of the morning? So I barely looked over at my phone. I had just got up. I had, getting older, had hot flashes. So I got up. I went to the bathroom, and I remember turning my fan on and getting back in the bed. So I turned over to my left side, and when my FaceTime went off, I looked over, and I just slid it on to turn it on. So I hadn't really looked at, the camera, and all I heard her saying was, "Mom, Mom." So I'm like, what is she? So I turned over, and all I saw was blood. And she was like, "Mom, help me. Just help me, Mom. Help me. My friend shot me." And I'm like, "Your friend? Who is your friend?" And she just said, "I can't breathe. I can't breathe." So I done rolled off the bed. And I'm like, "Where is Bella?" So Bella is my grandbaby, which is her daughter. She didn't have any idea where she was. And so I'm like, "Where is Bella?" "I don't know. She said, "Mom, I can't breathe." And I said, "You gonna live. You are gonna live." I said, "Call on Jesus." And I started calling Jesus. I called Jesus 3 times. Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. I said, "You gonna live. You gonna be all right." And I don't even know how I got off the phone, because to be honest, I was like in a panic mode. I asked her, first of all, why did she call me? Because I'm like, did you call the police? Did you call the, because like, why you calling me? Because it wasn't nothing I could do. And she told me she had. So I had ended up getting off the phone with her, and I remember calling my aunt and saying that please pray, just start praying, Kira been shot, and she said her friend did. I don't know what's going on, but I'm getting ready to get, go where she is. And I got off, and then I called my friend girl, Tanya, to come and get me, because I didn't think I could drive. I was like super nervous. So I was trying to explain to her what's going on. I'm like, I just need to get to her. And so she comes and get me, and we make it to Sharpsburg. But by that time, her best friend is calling me, asking me what's going on. I'm like, I have no clue. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what Bella is. I just need somebody to get there. So she was closer to her than I was. So she gets there, and when we pull up, we already see yellow tape. We see the ambulance, police, everybody's just full over there. So they wouldn't let us go but so far up because of the yellow tape. But thank God she had my grandbaby. So she was safe. And so we proceed to get in. They was like, well, we taking them to Greenville, whatever. So we get in the car, and I call my baby girl to meet me back at the house so we can all go to the hospital together. Well, while we're heading back, my grandbaby is trying to tell us what happened. But we didn't know what she was talking about at the time, because it's like, she said, what she called him? I can't remember what she called him, but he shot his daughter and his girlfriend. And I was like, oh, he did? Because I didn't know if she was making this up, because she was like, and I'm telling the truth too. And I was like, oh, so what did you do? She said, I ran because I didn't want him to shoot me. And I'm like, okay. Still not knowing what had happened. So I didn't know if this was like made up. Did something happen? What did we miss? Because I know we saw glass, and I remember my daughter's best friend crying about Rick's being, in the on the ground, and he was bleeding. All of that before I got there. So I didn't know who Rick's was. I didn't know any of that. So we get to the hospital, and that's when a lot of what happened was starting to come, to the front, like what exactly had happened. And so from what was told, they were all there at the house. That she had just come in from hanging out, and the young man and Reeks at the time, they came there, and they was all just hanging out. They leave to go get chicken. She is there with the kids. He is calling his baby mama to try to get her to come over there. So she ended up coming there, and they were all in there playing the video games or whatever when Shadam had went and got something to eat. And they come back. Now, I'm not sure of what the argument was about, what happened with that or whatever, but somehow or another they get into an argument, everybody end up outside. And that's when all the shooting and stuff took place outside. So she was there and saw when he shot Kiara and Zoe, but she tried to run because he had already shot Riggs too. Yeah. She tries to run, and she said she fell. She got up. She got Bella, told Bella to run, and then she's trying to get up the steps, because I think she had fell again trying to get up the steps. She gets in the house. She thought she had locked the door, but she didn't. And he comes in behind her, and he puts the gun to her head and said, I ought to shoot you, cursed at her. He ought to kill her. And she said she just pleaded for her life. She asked him not to. So at this time, she told Bella to run. Bella went back out the door, so she didn't know where Bella had went to. Yeah. And but by the grace of God, he left. He just walked off.
Wow. So, in that tragedy, a young child, was 6 years old,
yes,
wound up dying.
Yes.
Her mom wound up dying.
Yes.
Another guy was shot, and your daughter was shot, and your granddaughter was in harm's way.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And your daughter was shot in the face, or?
So, listen, God is so good, because my daughter was shot twice, and not one artery, not a tooth or anything was broken.
Wow.
Yep. So it came in through her neck and her face, so out her face. But you wouldn't, she didn't have anything broken. Of course, they had to stitch her up, but nothing was broken, no main artery hit or anything. So I know it was nobody but God, nobody but Him.
Wow. Now, with a tragedy like that, I wanted to ask, what's the healing process for that? Because I mean, that's something most people can't get over that. I mean, it's involving your daughter, it's involving her daughter.
Mm-hmm.
For them, what is it like? What was the healing process for them and yourself?
So for me, I'm what you call a delayer. So like things can happen. I know that it's happening, but it don't hit me right then. So it comes like days later. So days later after that happened is when I really just cried out to God and just like was thanking him, like grateful and realizing like everything that had took place, like you saved my daughter. Like you saved my daughter and all I could do was be grateful. I was grateful yet sad because of what happened to, Kiara and her daughter and even the young man that did it. What were those things that he was going through? What would have brought him to that point that he had to do what he did to everybody? And so I just was grateful. And all I did was, be there for my daughter, whatever that looked like for her. Because, of course, she kept seeing his face. She kept seeing, it was her trying to sleep at night. Like she was battling with, going to sleep and seeing the same vision of what he was doing. And so it was just prayer. Just prayer, just allowing her to feel what she feel because she was the one who experienced it, on that end of it, right? So it was like allowing her to feel what she feel, and then we just started reaching out to resources to get her and my grandbaby in therapy. So she's been, just staying close to positive people, to encourage her and just let her know like, hey, you still here. Yeah. So with you still being here, meaning you got work to do. That's something for you to do. Oh, yeah. So, just taking one day at a time and feeling what you feel when they come.
Now, what has been the most difficult part of supporting your daughter through this? Because it's something that can be hard on someone to see someone go through that, and they may not be catching on to the therapy and stuff in the beginning. Mm-hmm. What was that like for you personally?
Well, seeing her go through that? It was sad, like, because it's nothing you could do. It's like you having to allow them to feel and go through that for themselves, but at the same time, still offering, hey, is there something I can do? Or can I help? Sometimes it's like there was nothing I could do but let her cry. And if she had a moment, let her have her moment. And then when she finished, I'd be like, are you good? Because it's more like she having survivor's remorse too, because she made it and she lost a friend and Zoe. So that was hurtful, So just allowing her to feel what she feel, and then me trying not to take anything personal if she gets upset or she lashed out or whatever, because our relationship wasn't the best relationship, but this has actually brought us closer. Yeah. So, and I'm grateful. You never get to choose how God gonna do some things, but He got a way of bringing things, together the way that they should. Because that was one of my prayers. I always want to be close with my kids, but you always have some that's a little challenging than others, right? Oh, yeah. And so, this was a way of God bringing us to be a little closer to each other, like realizing how much I've always loved her. I always showed love. It had to be tough love at times, but I always showed her love. But now she see that she have love, support, and people that really, really do care about her. And so we've been here every step of the way as much as we can. And then some of those things she has to figure out for herself. Because, of course, she's the one experiencing it and going through it on that end of it. But she's been doing absolutely good.
Okay, great. Mm-hmm. Now, I wanted to ask this off a little bit about your granddaughter. Because that particular night, she was probably playing with the little girl. Mm-hmm. What was her, what's healing been like for her, knowing that somebody she was just playing with passed away?
So with her being, at the time she was 5, she's 6 now. I don't think she processed it like we did as adults to know like that wasn't right. Okay. So I'm grateful now that we have her in therapy to work through that as a kid.
Oh, okay.
So that, because they did explain, like, it could show up years later with
Yeah.
PTSD or whatever the case may be, based off of something that she experienced when she was 5.
Yeah.
So the fact that we're getting a handle on it now is good. So what they do is say, allow her to talk about it. So if she want to talk about Zoe, if she say something, she see a picture of Zoe or whatever, they might even go visit their gravesite. Like, that helps her. So if she want to come and talk to me about it, I just listen. Because I know she know that was her friend. She know what happened, but I don't know she know the extent like we do. But yeah.
Wow. Now I want to go into some of the work you do with your domestic violence victims. What are some of the warning signs you believe people should look for in an abusive relationships?
Anybody that's too controlling. If anybody gotta know where you at, what you're doing, who you doing it with, if they, got something to say, how you dressing, if they gotta be everywhere you are, the love bombing, those are the things that we should pay attention to. You don't want to be like sure of everybody, but those things will show up pretty quickly. So you need to pay attention to all those things.
Okay. Now, a lot of people, this question I'm about to ask now, a lot of people who are ignorant to a lot of domestic violence relationships, they don't really understand this. They say, why didn't the person just leave? Or that may. So what do you think keeps victims in abusive relationships? And how can family and friends help them out if they see they're in an abusive relationship?
So I believe some of the reasons why they stay is complacency, security, the fear of thinking they can't make it without them. The idea of keeping my family together, because that was one of the reasons why I stayed, was because I wanted to be with one of my children's father. So I stayed a little longer than I needed to. And so it could be financially, like they make more money and I don't. How I'm going to make it out here with these kids by myself, or even by yourself. If you're not working or you do work, but you only work part-time and they make more money. So that could be one of the things. And they could just be scared. They could really be scared of living, because it takes up to 7 times before a victim leave. They can leave 7 times before they actually leave. So they'll leave, go back, all like that. And so and then when they do leave, that's when they're in the most danger.
Yeah. Wow. Now, you have an organization, like you say, what is the name of it?
The Pamela D. Page Foundation.
After your mom.
After my mom.
How can people get involved in supporting, your organization?
So right now what we're doing is educating our community. We're having like our first event that's coming up, our first forum that we're doing on February the 1st, which will be at Edgecombe Community College in Tarboro at their multipurpose room, where we're gonna have professionals who gonna speak on the side of domestic violence, whether it's resources or on the educational side of it. We got officers, lawyers, a guy that has a mentor for men. So we're gonna actually have open conversations so people can hear and know on different sides of what's happening in our community when it comes to domestic violence. So we're educating our people, and then we're doing fun things too to involve them. So I do hair. I've been doing hair for over 20 some years. So I incorporated hair and fashion, which my mom loved fashion. We incorporated hair and fashion to give a survivor a chance to rip the runway, be beautiful, make them up. And then we even give a platform for those to come out and share their story, so they can see that we thrive after this, right? That's the whole point of my organization, is that there is life after this, and we want you to live it to the fullest. So we provide that platform for them to be able to come, share their story, and then they're helping somebody else.
Wow. What is it? Is there a website?
You can go to pdpfoundation.com.
Okay, and I'll make sure that's.
And the events will be up there. You can go under events. You can even go and find out about my mom and myself under there too.
Okay. Wow. So you spoke about an event which is February the 1st. What time is it?
It's from 11 to 2.
11 to 2. And Edgecombe?
Edgecombe Community College in Tarboro.
Okay. And we make sure we put that.
Yeah, because we got 2 campuses, one in Rocky Mount, one in Tarboro. So it's the one in Tarboro.
Okay, great. And you're also an author.
I'm also an author. Yes.
Could you tell us a little bit about your book?
So my book is called Process for the Promise. Finally, I found real love. And so this is during the time that, as I shared with you before, the trauma will have you wondering why you can't have good relationships. Like what's wrong with me? And I would think that there was something wrong with me. And so I had an encounter with God. Like I knew about God. My grandma, that was the foundation. She raised me. She taught me about him. So, but I never knew about really having a relationship with God, right? So, and I always wondered, what was love like? Like, what does that feel like, Lord? Like, what does that really mean, you know? And he said to me, I told him to teach me how to love, like show me and show me how to do it. And he said, you know, he'd been loving me the whole time. He's like, I've been loving you the whole time. You just been loving everybody else. Like I was putting all that energy and love that I wanted in men that were not worthy of me. Because they weren't even in a good place. Because they couldn't love me back the way that God could. Exactly. Right? So he had to show me that. He was like, listen, if you do it my way, you get a second chance at this.
Wow. That's deep.
Yeah.
And can they also get your book on the website?
Yeah, they can go to natakeypage.com.
Okay. We'll put that on there too.
Or they can go to Amazon.
Okay. Now, what message do you have for a survivor who may be afraid to leave their abuser? Like, if you had a chance to speak to someone right now, what would you say to them?
I would let them know that they're not alone and to give themselves grace. And just take a minute to look within themselves and ask themselves, why do they think they're still there? Right? And process that reason. And then get the support that may be out there or available to them, use it. If the family want to provide something for them, take it. And, you know, because they're going to be ready when they're ready. So I wouldn't tell them to leave, because I could say leave and they're going to go right back. Yeah. It's when you ready. When you ready. And I just ask the family to be, you know, be supportive, or friends that see these things happening, be supportive. Have a plan for them when they do come out of it. You know, they might can't stay around in the same area when they get away from them. They might need a very safe place to go that he or she don't know nothing about, and they can go and just get themselves together. So to give yourself grace and don't beat yourself up, because you're not the only one that's experiencing it. It is your experience, though. It's your experience. You feel what you feel. But just know that you can live and thrive without that abusive relationship, because they're worthy and they're better than that. So I would give them much encouragement to let them know that God is there. He's a provider. He'll provide now and he'll provide later. So just trust him. Step out on faith and let him show you what he'll do for you.
Wow. Now, this is the last question.
Okay.
I'm not going to hold you too long.
All right, you're fine.
What is the next step for your daughter, your nonprofit, your mission to fight against domestic violence?
So the biggest goal for my nonprofit is to actually get me maybe a housing duplex where I get to house my women. And they get to have their own separate space to process and to heal. And while they're there, they can go through therapy. They look for jobs. We help them financially to know how to budget, save money, go back to school, whatever the things that they need, not only for them, but for their children too. So we want to be able to do that, and people can't just find them. Okay, we're not going to say where it's going to be located at, but we know we're going to do something where they're not having to look at everybody else that's going through the same thing and then they ready to go. Because now I don't have my own personal space. You know, people going through stuff. They don't want to be sitting here looking at this when your child running, jumping and doing all this, and this child, like, you're going to want to go home in your own comfortable spot where you was in your bed, whether they fussing or fighting or not. At least I got my own bed. At least I can go in my own refrigerator, you know. Yeah. So I want to have that. And my daughter's just taking one day at a time. And she's, you know, she's being active, you know, she's supporting me with what I'm doing, because she's now a survivor herself. Yeah. And so she's out there doing the work as well. My grandbaby's They both are, doing therapy and just taking one step. We laughing more, we hugging each other, we loving each other more, because we don't know when our last day gonna be.
Yeah.
And so now that's just made an eye opener of how important it is to tell each other that we love each other and that we there for each other. We can't stay mad at each other forever. You get mad, you got to get over it quickly.
Yeah.
And so I just look forward to being able to do that for my community, as well as continue to educate and have these conversations that we need to have. And we have to be more vulnerable. We have to be more truthful. And it's okay, because you're not by yourself. You're just not.
Wow. Well, Miss Natakey Owens,
Yes.
I want to thank you for coming in and speaking with us today. And I really wanted to say what you're doing with this foundation is wonderful. We appreciate your honesty about your mom, yourself, and your daughter, and your granddaughter.
Yeah.
Because it takes a lot to come in and someone talk about that. We want to thank you, and also, can people just donate to your?
Absolutely. They can go to the foundation page, the PDP Foundation, and it's a donate, and they can donate from there. They also can volunteer.
Okay, gotcha. But, I was gonna say we're gonna make a donation.
Okay,
for My Life, My
thank
Story,
you.
And to keep and promote as much as possible
Oh,
for this.
thank you.
And so we want to thank you for coming in, though, and I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
And keep doing what you're doing.
All right.
Everyone is going to love this.
Yeah.
Everyone, I put the blessing on you today.
Yes,
You're gonna
thank
have that
you.
building.
Thank you.
And
Thank
so
you.
just keep doing what you're doing, and we see the blessing on you.
Yeah.
So thank you for coming in, and we appreciate you.
Oh, appreciate you.
All right, thank you.
All right.